Good morning, welcome to our small footprint. Today I have another kitchen prep day for you, food prep day. We have some Smoothie Pops and some next process of bacon and some pumpkin gnocchi, and then using the pumpkin to make some pumpkin muffins as well. So I hope you enjoy and come along and get some inspiration from everything that's going on. And as per usual, please let me know anything in the comments that you think I might need to know, and I will be sure to respond. I try and stick around for at least a couple of hours initially and answer any comments that come through, but I do answer them even throughout the next couple of days as well. So I look forward to chatting to you in the comments, and I will see you again in the next couple of days, and have a great day. See you later. We picked some pumpkins from the garden the other day. We still have 20 odd sitting out on the vine at the moment, so we're trying to work through some of them as we go. Picked a couple of them that were a good size. We've had to get rid of a couple because they've split because the rain's been so bad, so it's nice to pick some when we have use for them. And the kids and Darryl really enjoy pumpkin gnocchi. So what I decided to do was to smoke these pumpkins. So I sliced them into rings and I peeled all the skin off the sides of them. I scooped all the seeds out. I didn't do anything with the seeds today. I fed them to the chickens, I think, who really enjoy them. But we do roast them and season them regularly, and the kids really enjoy them like that, and I save them if I need seeds for planting, but I've got plenty at the moment because we've had a lot of pumpkin come out of the garden. I decided to chop it fairly small. When making gnocchi with the pumpkin, roasting it is better than steaming it because more moisture gets removed from the pumpkin, and if you cut it smaller, then that also becomes the thing. Like there's less inner space of the pumpkin to hold that moisture. You have to make sure you don't smoke it or roast it for too long, because if the skin on the outside's too hard, it's really hard to mash up and make it smooth for your gnocchi. But just smoking it till it's tender added that smoky flavour, which was really nice, and dries out the inside enough that it isn't adding too much moisture to your dough. Refrigerating afterwards would be beneficial as well without a cover on it. I was a bit slack, so I pulled it all out, smoked it, and then mashed it warm, which isn't the ideal situation because it's going to hold some of that moisture because of that. But we do what we have to do in a day to get things done, and this is what was done for today. So I mashed it all up and added a few bits at a time and mashed it up. I've got this old, I don't even know where this masher came from, and it works fine, but it's not my preferred style of masher, but it works. I added some nutritional yeast to the pumpkin. You can add Parmesan cheese if you're a dairy family, but we aren't, so I added nutritional yeast and mixed it through really well. I then started adding flour. Now, with flour, with the ratios of gnocchi, I have made it 3 or 4 times in the past couple of weeks, and I have found it really depends on the pumpkin that you're using. Gnocchi is generally made with potato, which is starchier and doesn't hold quite as much moisture, whereas the pumpkin, it really just depends on the variety you're using. Like these butternuts are really moist, whereas the Jap pumpkins or the big Australian pumpkins are a bit drier, so it really does depend on that. So I can't really give you direct ratios. What we did is we started adding flour and then mixing it through until it got into a consistency. Now, I have learned that you don't want it to be a dough as such. You want it to be more like a really wet sourdough. You want it to still be quite sloppy and sticky, because if you over knead it and you add too much flour to it, when you boil and fry the gnocchi, it's really tough and rubbery. Now, my kids didn't care, but I am not a huge fan of gnocchi. I make it for them and Darryl. It's not something I generally eat, but it is definitely much more pleasant when you back off on the flour and you keep it sort of wet and hard to handle. It ends up really tender and fluffy and melt in your mouth almost. So I keep on adding flour till I can handle it to a degree, but it's definitely less than I would expect you would add to it, and definitely less than I've seen when watching other people make it, what their dough looks like. So you carefully cut lengths off the the ball, that it's not much of a ball, but cut lengths off the ball and flour your board and roll it out gently using that flour to stop it from sticking to the board in your hands, and just handle it all really, really gently. I then steam it in a pot of boiling water with a bit of salt until it floats, and then we fry it off in the cast iron in a little bit of lard or ghee, and this is what it looks like when it's cooked. The bacon had been curing for over a week now, so I pulled it out to clean it off and dry it. So I have to rinse as much of the cure off it as we can easily, otherwise it ends up a bit too salty, and then pat it dry with the paper towel until it's, as dry as you can get it without rubbing at it. You just want to dry off any excess moisture on it. It then has to go on a rack back in the fridge because you want it to create a pellicle, which is like a skin sort of on it, like it creates a bit of a rind, I suppose you could call it, when it's in the fridge uncovered for at least 24 hours. I think you could leave it longer. You just have to keep in mind how long you're leaving these things. Once the cure is on the pork, the best before date is a little less relevant because the cure extends that best before date, but you still want to be aware of the temperatures of your fridge, how long it's sitting in there, and what the best before date was on it before you started the process and things like that. You have to use a little bit of common sense there, but it just needs to sit uncovered on a rack in the fridge for at least 24 hours to create that little bit of a skin before it goes into the smoker. So that will be tomorrow's job. I used the steam juicer today to make some berry cordial. So I have the 3-berry blend frozen fruit from Costco. It's a fairly inexpensive way to buy some frozen fruit. I buy fresh fruit when it's available, obviously, but there isn't always some available, and we haven't gotten to growing our own as such yet. I made a whole lot of strawberry cordial up when strawberries were in season, but I haven't been able to get my hands on much more since then. So I used the steam juicer with the frozen berries in top and a cup of sugar over the frozen berries, and then just let it go, and we jar it up in these reused passata bottles to make the cordial, and we use that with our soda stream. I had some pumpkin left. Now, it had been smoked, but I decided that wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, and I decided to make a pumpkin choc chip muffin for the kids with that excess pumpkin that was left over. I used a recipe I think I've shared before, but I'll try and remember to put it in the comments below. I still haven't got the blog going. It's just taking me far longer than I'd like. But I only had a few liners left from those freebies that I got, and they were all mushed up, so I've shoved them in the holes and managed to get them to work, but only just. If you have any suggestions for muffin trays or liners down below, compostable or recyclable ones, that would be great if you could let me know. I know there's the If You Care brand, but they're very expensive for the quantity that you get, and I think I'd like a 24 tray for muffins would be handy. But anyway, give me any ideas in the comments below if you've got any. After they were done, I made coffee syrup. So this is just a simple caramel syrup. It's basically the same ratios of sugar and water cooked on the stove until it caramelizes, and then whisked up and put in jars. And we use this with our cold brew. We don't use it in our hot coffee. We don't sweeten our hot coffees, but we do really like to have just a smidge of sweetness in our cold brew cold coffees. So we make this up, and we just put a little bit in the bottom of each coffee when we make it, which we make most days, and we really enjoy that. So it's worth the effort to have that in there. We have been known to use maple syrup, but maple syrup is quite expensive, so this coffee syrup is very cheap in the scope of how much raw sugar costs. It's just a little bit of effort, and every now and again I screw it up because if you cook it for too long it turns to toffee. So I have been known to walk away forgetting it was there and come back and it's unusable. The muffins were cooked, and they are this lovely, moist, bright coloured muffin. If you have a look inside, the kids adore these, and it works really well. You can use sweet potato as well, and we just got a food hamper that has a whole bunch of sweet potato in it, so I will probably make some sweet potato ones too. I had all the berries from the cordial, so the steam juicer steams the berries but leaves all the pulp behind, and that pulp is slightly sweetened because you had sugar in it initially when you were making the cordial. So the sugar gets steamed through the trays and into the liquid, but there's still some left behind. Those berries are definitely sweeter than they would be normally with that added sugar that's been steamed through them. So because I had those, I decided to make the kids some Smoothie Pops, which is something that they adore. I really like making these Smoothie Pops. Actually, I really hate making the Smoothie Pops, but I really enjoy the fact that 1 2-litre jug of smoothie can make, how many does it make? It makes 24 Smoothie Pops, which I allow them 2 a day. So that means that that's 2 days worth of smoothie that they're having from 1 jug of smoothie, which stretches that smoothie out, but also it's high in sugar. It's not something that they need to just gulp down. It should be a treat, and when it's on a smoothie stick, they really enjoy it as a treat rather than just taking for granted having a smoothie. So they eat them whenever they want. They can have 2 a day, and it works out well. This one had the berries from the cordial, some mango that I had frozen when the mangoes were in season, bananas that again I had frozen when that was in season. I normally use some milk kefir, but I didn't have any ready, and I didn't have any fresh milk to swap out my grains, which I do now because we had the food hamper, so I'm going to be doing that. So I used coconut cream, so a tin of coconut cream, and then refilled it with water once or twice to bring it up to the line. I had hemp seeds and chia seeds, and then I blend it all into this pretty purple blend, and then it all goes into the molds and sticks get added. I get asked all the time where these molds are from. These molds are from Kavik, which I'll put a link in the description. If I forget, please remind me. I love these. I got them on sale at the time, but even full price, they're pretty well priced. They do have plastic covers that go over the top, which is really great, except that I can never find them when I want to use them. But anyway, thank you for watching today, and I hope it helped again with some inspiration on whatever you have in the cupboard and making do with things over a month and using what you have. And I will see you again in another day or two.